Hi everyone, and welcome back. It's so funny, every time I start these, I do a little giggle, like more times than not. And it's so funny because like I'm like usually not giggling before, but maybe it's like to lighten up the mood or something. I don't know. Via Baba. Interesting. So hey, I hope that you guys are doing good. We're gonna be talking about interesting dream time today. This one is really, really interesting because I actually saw something I was studying yesterday that was related to this dream. So we'll get into that. So I don't really have a background on this dream because I don't exactly remember what was going on during this time period. So I don't really have a background, but this dream was very, very interesting. It definitely stuck with me. So in this dream, okay, I think that I actually woke up like I was waking up from my bed. I'm pretty sure I think that's how it started, where I was like waking up from my bed. And it was like I was in a parallel reality. And you know what it reminds me of? I kid you not. It reminds me of WandaVision. Like I was in an episode of WandaVision, okay? So I was associating to my body. It was very strange how it was. It's so interesting, the different levels of consciousness between you and other versions of yourself in the dream world. Wow, does that say 11:33? I've been seeing November 13th, for the past 3 years. November 13th always is like a super significant day. Like as soon as we start getting to October, I start seeing 11:13. It's like clockwork. It's so interesting. Okay, let me focus. Okay, I'm gonna try not to focus on everything going on, but you get to a certain point where the universe is like almost always talking to you, which I like that because I communicate a lot, so I enjoy talking a lot, but I am trying to get through this. Okay, so I kind of forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, okay, so it's kind of like WandaVision. Okay, so it was like this very strange reality, and I was like associating to my body, but there was an aspect of me that I wasn't as conscious of, that was paying attention to me from afar. Let's say that. So the DeeDee that was waking up, it was me, but it was obviously like a dumbed down version. But I was mainly in that perspective. But even though I was like kind of a dumbed down version, I still had a sense that there was another aspect of me that was paying attention to me. Now, I wasn't like super consciously aware of it, but subconsciously I was aware of it, if that makes sense, And so I woke up and it was time for me to go and get some shoes for work. Okay, so both of my parents were there in this dream, and it was like we all lived together in this house, and I had to be like 23. I had to be 23, so I was about 27, I think, when I had this dream. Yeah, I think I was like 27 when I had this dream, but in the dream I was 23, so I was 4 years back. And for some reason, it felt like I had just finished college and, like maybe a week or two before this day in this life, okay? And so I was like, I had a job lined up. So I was like, I just finished school and there's a job lined up and I need to go get shoes for it. So that's what was going on this particular day, okay? So I get out of bed and it's almost like I'm still a child. So my mom had my clothes picked out to go, which I would love that today. I'm not gonna lie, I would love that today if my mom was like picking out my clothes and stuff and still washing clothes for me. Like, shout out to you if you still have like your mom doing that stuff for you, because I definitely would love that. Anyways, so my clothes are picked out. We're going to go drive in her car. She's going to pay for the shoes. Just like I was still kind of in high school a little bit, even though I had, graduated college. So we go to the shoe place, and I noticed that my oversoul, we'll just say this energy that was looking at me was my oversoul, okay? Was making a distinction in my mind about the circumstance that was happening at the shoe store. So at the shoe store, so I was actually picking out shoes and things like that. I went to a school where we used to wear Doc Martens, right? Are they called Doc Martens? They look like those black and white bowling shoes. Those black and white bowling shoes. Are those Doc Martens? I don't know if they are Doc Martens. I might be thinking about something else. But whatever, that's not the point. And so I was actually doing that for work, but there was an overlay of, I remember when I was getting shoes for middle school, there's a situation where we were in the store and the shoes were too narrow for my feet. And that's what I know now. Okay, so these particular shoes that we had to wear, even in middle school, they were very narrow shoes. They were made for narrow feet. Okay, and so I remember we were getting my feet sized, and I couldn't find a pair that were comfortable, and it was starting to be a little bit irritating for everyone, because they couldn't find exactly what my size is. They kept trying to go up, they kept trying to go down, and then we ended up settling on this pair of shoes that really, for most of the time I was in school and then going into high school, they just were never comfortable. I just never really felt like I fit in the shoes, right? And that is because my feet are quite wide. I've got very wide feet. And I know that now, especially because I only have one child who has feet like Ray, one child who has narrow feet. And when I saw her, after I gave birth to her and I saw her feet, I was like, oh, these are what narrow feet look like, because I'd always seen my feet, and then the previous 3 babies all have feet like mine. But when she came out, I was like, oh, these are narrow feet. And this is really significant because, it's like there are certain things that are just normal for certain people that are not normal for everyone in the population. And so it can make you feel like, you just don't fit in or whatever, when it's really that it's just not catered to you. It's not catered to people like you, right? Like even now, definitely with 5 pregnancies, I've gained a lot of weight. I ain't gonna lie about that shit, okay? Look, I saw 353 just now. That's my oversoul number. So I can lie about that because my feet are wide, obviously, because I have picked up a lot of weight. But just in general, I remember it was like a pretty hard thing to find shoes that are wide enough. Okay, so anyways, I knew that something, again, like I wasn't extremely conscious. So this is like a version of me that, if I never had my spiritual awakening, I didn't date anyone in college or whatever, and I just did everything that everyone wanted me to do, this will be this version of me. Okay, so I knew that I was seeing deja vu, but I didn't know like what the phenomenon I was talking about, or it was kind of like that level where they can notice things are going on but not conscious enough to actually follow through and figure out why it's showing up. It's just acknowledging it. So I was like, okay, interesting. So I did get my clothes. The clothes fit nicely and stuff like that. And so then I went home. We all had dinner, and then I even remember taking this bath and having lotion and stuff. And I was just like so prepared to go to work the next day. It was like, the epitome of my life was coming to this grand peak of excitement because I have finally gotten a job and I could finally make my parents proud, So I remember just going to sleep and I was just so excited about this job, right? And it was like the last thought that I had before I went to sleep. This is all in the dream, okay? So I'm living out a whole day in the dream, and then I'm going to live out another day. We're going to get to that. So it was like literally almost like the very last thought before I went to sleep, where I was like, wait, what job do I even have? And all of these thoughts started racing into my mind. Like, wait, I don't even know where I'm going. I don't even know where I'm supposed to be being picked up for the job. Are my parents going to be dropping me off? Are they coming to pick me up? I'm like, I don't even know what the job is. Like, I was so excited about the job that I didn't even think to ask critical questions like, where am I going to be working? I literally had no clue. But instead of thinking about it too much, because it was the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I trust my parents, and I'm just going to go with whatever it is. I'm sure it'll be fine. And that's as much as I thought about it, and I went to sleep. So I went to sleep in the dream, and I woke up, and I was still in the dream, okay? Now this time, consciously, I do think that I'm awake, living out this life. But this was not like waking life, though, okay? And so I wake up. My, clothes are ready. My undergarments are picked out. My socks are picked out. My shoes are perfectly there. I already took my shower last night, so I'm perfectly, prepared for the day. So I put on my clothes. I brush my teeth. I sit down, and breakfast is all laid out. Pancakes, eggs, no bacon or whatever, because I still wasn't eating meat in that reality, but everything was perfect. I had some delicious, yummy orange juice. I mean, everything was perfectly set for me to be able to go to this job that I had no clue what the job was, okay? So after I eat, my mom is like, okay, it's 7:50, and at 8 o'clock, that's when the guy's gonna come pick you up. And so I was like, okay. And I didn't even really think to ask, like, okay, well, who is this guy? Where is he bringing me? Where am I working? I was just like, I got the degree. I've got all the knowledge. So I'm sure it's in my field. And it's going to be the perfect job. I was just so excited about this freaking job, okay? So I'm like, I'm just so excited about this job. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. Right? Child, this man comes outside, okay, and I am overdressed, okay, because he looks like the Orchid Man. That's exactly the uniform that he had, this white, kind of like almost a painter suit, when like painters put on those white suits and stuff like that, or like the people who go out and do the billboards and stuff, that kind of attire, but it also kind of looks like the Orchid Man too, with the hat, hard hat and everything like that. And he had a clipboard. And that's when I finally was like, hold on, because what job did you sign me up for? Now, I don't remember exactly what I finished in college at that time. I think it was like psychology or something. But that was like the first time when I was like, I don't do construction work. And so I said it in my head like that, like, wait, this looks like construction work. I don't do construction work. So he had this big old white van, okay, kidnapper looking van, with all these women in it, which I also took note of it, and I thought that it was strange, but I'm still trying to hold out hope, okay? Still trying to hold out hope. I'm like, I don't know what it's talking about or why he's got all these women in here, and they all looked about my age too, like freshly out of college, mid-20s, something like that. And they looked like they were also going to a construction site. And none of them, and that was the crazy part, none of them looked like they were construction workers either. It was strange. It was strange. So he's checking things off on his clipboard, because obviously he knows who I am. And that's when I remember, oh yeah, my mom and dad set up this job for me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trust that, this is how it's supposed to go. I don't know. It's weird. It's strange. But, I'm here, and at least I have a job. And so I get in the van and we drive. It seems like we drove for like hours, like 5 hours or something, child. It was a long time. And then we finally passed up this city, plaque thing, the green plaques that tell you like what city you're coming to. And it was a small town. I'm like, how did they even find this place? Like, it wasn't some big city or anything like that. It was like off the beaten path. And so we ended up turning off of this exit, and by this time all the girls were looking at each other because we were like, are they kidnapping us? And it felt like I had never contemplated being kidnapped in my life before. But at that moment, I was like, are they kidnapping us? Like, why are they going into this scary, desolate-looking place? And I won't say that it was, like, eerie feeling, but it was off the beaten path. Like, as we were driving down another long kind of dirt road, it was nothing but trees and, old barbed wire that, who knows when they put that up, how many years ago. Just desolate kind of area, okay? So then we drove, like, it had to be another, like, hour or two. And I'm like, where are we going? When are we going to be back home? So we finally get to this place. It's still light outside. We finally get to this place, and there is this huge clearing. Okay, so there's a huge clearing, okay? It's off this dirt road somewhere in God knows where. And it's this huge clearing. And so it's split into two parts. I'll say it like that. It's a huge clearing. So many acres, okay? And it's split into two parts. And it is split by a gate. And then, so the part in front of the gate is a little bit lower than the part behind the gate. So the part behind the gate is a little bit elevated, okay? So all of the girls were going to be working in the first part of, before the gate. That's where they wanted us to do work at. So he's explaining to us finally, after like 50,000 hours of driving, what we're going to be doing. So we were in this field to go, I kid you not, this is what this man said. He was like, we want you guys to dig up the piping down here, and we're going to replace the copper pipes with plastic pipes. That was the job. And so we're all looking at each other like, I went to all of this school to be replacing pipes in the middle of nowhere? What? Now, I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but I'm just saying that, we obviously had an expectation that our degree was going to be used towards something specific. That's why we chose it. And so we're just like, this is not what we went to school for. So anyways, by this time, we're already, all the way in the boondocks somewhere. So, I mean, I don't even know if we even know how to get back. So at this point, we're like, you know what, we might as well just go ahead and start digging, okay? So everybody got split up into groups. It had to be like maybe 100 girls or something like that. It was, well, I guess maybe it was less than that because it was just one van. So maybe it was like 30 girls. I don't know. It was a lot. It was a nice amount of girls. So we all got split up into like groups of 3. Okay. So we're in different areas. We're supposed to be digging up the ground with a tiny shovel. And eventually we would get down into the ground, and there would be pipes to replace. So our expectation, of course, that they were copper pipes down there. And we were going to be pulling up those pipes and replacing them with plastic pipes. Okay. So I'm in my group, and we are in a segment that has this very, very old looking piece of maybe concrete or something like that. I don't know if it was specifically concrete, but it was like a white type of stone. And there's like, dirt within it. So I knew that it had been underground for a very long time. Like it was some type of old structure. Now, the conscious version of me did not know that. But this other aspect of me that was just kind of following me around did know that. Like, oh, okay, this must be some type of site, some type of ancient site or something. But like I said, the conscious version of me was just like, why is there concrete here? And so as I'm digging and digging, I noticed that we're getting closer to the pipes. So we're starting to uncover the pipes, and I start getting dizzy. Ooh, 353 again. I start getting dizzy. Okay. And it was like a dizzy where I thought that I was going to have a fainting spell, and I had never felt this before. So then finally in my head, I hear this female voice that's outside of me. So she, like, they couldn't hear her because she wasn't outside of, like, my mind, let's say. But I could audibly hear her, that it was not my internal voice talking to me. And she was like, you're dizzy because you are the copper. Now, let me go back a little bit because I forgot to say this part. As I was digging up the pipes, I realized that the pipes were already plastic. But there were little connectors between the plastic pipes that had little coils on it or something. And I assumed that that was a copper. But they made it seem like the whole pipe was going to be copper. And that you'd have to replace the whole thing. But they were already plastic underneath there with these little copper coils connecting the segments of the pipes. And it shook me to my core because I had never had an energy talking to me in my head. And I was just like, okay, I guess this is a thing. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I do next? You know, like, I took it pretty well. I'm like, okay, well, what do I do next? And she was like, you're about to pass out. Literally, I kid you not, like, I passed out. And this is all in the dream, okay? So I'm living, like, multiple days in the dream. I've heard of people living, like, a whole life in their dream, which is absolutely wild to me. That's bonkers to me. But anyways, I literally passed out, and when I woke up, I was just on the, land that was behind the gate. So now I'm on the elevated land, and it was like 2 other girls who were like coming too. Okay, so all the other girls, by the time I woke up, all the other girls were being sent home in the van, and it was just going to be me and 2 other girls. So I was the African American girl. And then there was an Asiatic woman, and there was the woman who looked to be like, traditionally Caucasian or white, okay? She got blonde hair, black hair, and then there was me, okay? So we're confused, highly confused. I'm like, why in the world did I just pass out just now? And why is everyone going home? And it wasn't like they were going to lunch break. It was like they were about to drive them the 7 hours to go home. And so I'm like, what? Well, why are we going to be stuck here, with the orchid man? Oh, look, a little spider. Stuck here with the orchid man. With what place? Like, how are we going to get home? So I'm like, okay. Child, the next thing I know, the guy is like, I want you to just walk on this grass and let me know if you feel anything. And I'm pretty sure he told us to take our shoes off. He was like, I want you to walk on the grass and just let me know when you feel something. And we're like, feel what? What does that even mean? And so he was like, you'll know it if you feel it. So I'm like, okay. All right, I guess so. So we start walking, and the next thing I know, like, I kid you not, it was so wild, especially for, like, this aspect of me that had not heard of any of these things, did not know what's going on. It was like we literally started walking into a different dimension. I kid you not. We started walking into a different dimension, and I swear to you, it started looking like ancient Egypt. I kid you not. It started turning the grass had started turning to sand, and then there's this very intricate, and I immediately knew it when I saw it. Now, in waking life, I don't know how I knew this, because I guess I must have seen it before, but there's like this very intricate rectangular structure that was like, that had indentions going down. So the indentions weren't big enough to be stairs walking down, but it was definitely indentions to make a sort of design. And I knew that this was like an ancient bath, like, you know, a bath that you fill up with water and you do like some type of rituals or water ceremony or something. And we were like walking down into this bath as we were like shifting dimensions. It was crazy. And as we started walking down, that's when I started getting the downloads or uploads about what was going on. It was like my consciousness immediately sped up and started remembering everything. It was so wild. It was like memories were returned to me that I did not remember at all. Like, I didn't even have the thoughts to think about these memories because I just had not come across it in so long. It was crazy. And so as I'm walking down and I'm putting all the pieces back together, I start feeling this immediate dread because I know that this bath at one point in time did have a pyramid over it, and that there was some type of like, I don't know, irrigation system or I don't know. But there used to be a huge pyramid over it, and then I think there was like, you know, a little square part in the middle of the pyramid where the water would come down and fill up this bath, and it had something to do with like, you know, moon transitions. And I forgot if people would like drink from them or bathe in those waters or something, but I think it was like associated to Anubis, I believe. This one, at least, I think was associated to Anubis and the moon. And so I was like, oh my goodness, because immediately I knew that they were resurrecting something, because it was also connected to resurrection. I knew they were resurrecting something. Child, the next thing I know, the pyramid disappears. So it didn't completely form, but I saw the overlay of it. So almost like the memory of what used to be there. And then the pyramid disappeared, okay? And when the pyramid disappeared, we were back on this land again, back in like the present moment at that time, back on this land, okay? And there were 3 beings standing in front of us. It was wild. There were 3 men standing in front of each one of us. So there's the Asian woman who was to my left. I was in the middle. And then there was the white woman to my right. Okay, so in front of the Asian woman, there was this jet black man. And I'm saying man loosely because he had the, you know, appearance of a human, but his energy was definitely giving not human. Like, not even just not extraterrestrial, but not human, okay? Like something else. And his eyes were like a deep golden color. And he had like this black kind of cat suit situation on. And then he had this kind of cape or something that had this triangular, like, silver something on it. And he just looked like he was in, like, his royal garb, I guess. You know how people have, like, traditional clothing. This was, like, his traditional clothing. Like, if, like, he was going to be an ambassador and representing his people. And he was jet black. Like, I mean, like deep space kind of black. Okay? And like I said, his eyes were like glowing gold. And I was like, what? And I was trying so hard not to freak out because he was also like, you know, 10, 12 feet tall or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? So then I looked at the guy in front of me. Okay, so the first guy was pretty tamed. And I'm going to use that energy because the guy in front of me was untamed, okay? So the guy that was in front of this woman was like tamed, we would say. So it looked like, you know, he had experience with humans, I guess, before or something like that. And so he had a calm demeanor. The guy that was in front of me looked like a traditional Mongolian warrior, you know, leather tassels. And I don't know if it's tassels. I don't know if that's the word, but, you know, pleats, I guess. Maybe it's pleats. I don't know. You know, metal garb and stuff. And he was huge too. Like, these men were not small. They were like huge. Like, he looked like he was about to tackle me with a football. And that's why I was going to say untamed, because he looked like he was about to like eat me. Like, Like, he was about to chew me up in pieces, okay? Because he was staring at me with, like, this, like, ferociousness. And I really was like, is he going to, like, just transform into a tiger and just, like, am I about to be killed right now? Like, why am I here? And then in front of the white woman, there was this guy who was Persian, okay? So they all had yellowish gold eyes. The guy in front of me, his eyes were not as intense as the first guy. And then the Persian guy, his eyes were not as intense as either one of them. So the Persian guy was, like, the most human-looking one. But they were all, like, way bigger than human men and blah, 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 blah. And the Persian guy was actually looking at the Mongolian guy, you know, kind of like, how did we get here? And as I was staring at the fierceness of this Mongolian warrior is when I remembered that at some time in the ancient past, okay, very ancient past, that we had actually locked these energies up. It was definitely giving locking the Titans up in the underworld vibes. That we had, you know, like, some type of magic where we had trapped them. And so I realized that this organ man was probably not a part of any type of, like, organization, and it was like a ruse, you know, it was like a ruse. And they were actually looking for I think something connected to Gilgamesh. That's what came to my mind. Something connected to Gilgamesh, and they were resurrecting these energies in hopes that these energies would help them out with something. And so I was just filled with so much dread, because I'm like, you don't even know how much energy it took to entrap them, and the reason why we did it. And it was like these beings were, like, wreaking havoc on everything. And it was interesting because I couldn't necessarily remember exactly how we knew them. Like, even though we were smaller than them and we were, like, let's say, identifying as human at that point in time, I couldn't remember the story on how we came across them. Like, I couldn't remember, like, if they were, like, family at a point in time, or I just couldn't remember the story. But yeah, so I was just like, oh my gosh, they think that they're gonna get something from these energies, and I'm like, you have no clue what you are dealing with. Like, you have no clue what you're dealing with. And then the dream ended up shifting, which I thought was a very strange kind of coincidence. It was 12/31. It's like the end of the year. Then the dreams shifted, and it totally went to me being, like, in just a totally different reality, which I still haven't figured out exactly why it shifted to this. But it ended up where I was a little bit older. Ooh, lightning. I was like 25 or something. And some type of way I ended up as a babysitter for this white family. And their kids were like 9 and 11, something like that, like 9 and 11. And I was sitting in the middle of the two kids in the back seat of the family car with the mom and the dad. The dad was driving. And I knew that he was taking us to go see a movie. So he wanted me to take this little boy, he was 9, this little girl, she was 11. He wanted me to go take them in to see this movie. That's what we're going to do today. And this family loved me as a babysitter. I was a really good babysitter. So I was, like, treated as a part of the family. So, you know, he gave me the money, you know, a whole bunch of money to, you know, make sure everybody had a good time, make sure that we ate really good, make sure, you know, it was, like, a really fun experience. And as we're, like, getting out of the car, I remember looking at my phone to look at the trailer for the movie that we were going to see, because I just wanted to check the age group on, the age group on it. And when I was looking at it, I remembered that it was a movie about this little girl who didn't fit in, and she was an extraterrestrial from another place. And you know who she kind of reminded me of? She kind of reminded me of Patty from Peanuts, you know, with the black hair, the chestnut brown hair, Patty, but with the energy of not the energy of Patty, the look of Patty, but she had the energy of blue from Emotion. Oh my gosh, what is that little Disney show called? Inside Out. The blue one from Inside Out. That's the energy that she had. But she was like trying to be a human girl though. And she was really sad because she wanted to go back to her home planet, which was the Magenta planet. And I remember staring at the Magenta planet and I felt so connected to it. It was a Magenta planet. Yeah, and then I woke up and it was very wild. So if I ever hear about them waking up giants or finding giant bones out in the boondocks of Louisiana, I will definitely come back and tell you guys about it. I wish that I remembered the name of that town because I saw it. I saw the name of that town. Oh, look, Darth Vader is on the back of this car. I definitely saw the name, but I just can't remember it right now, which is like the perfect thing for hypnosis, right? Because hypnosis like helps you recover the details. I wish I could remember it right now because I sure would look it up and try to go take a little trip over there. But yeah. So, as always, make sure that you comment, subscribe, like, share, do all those fun things. Comment once, twice, heavy on the commenting. Share with a friend who's had a similar experience, maybe some giants being woken up somewhere else. It actually would be so wild if I end up eventually coming across the women that I saw in my dream. Because I have had that where I've dreamed about people before I've met them, and it is absolutely bonkers. So yeah, make sure to come back and see me. Save it to a playlist if you want to come back and listen to it later on if something starts making sense. Yeah, and I will be back a little bit later with another video. Bye. Like a day or so, like not today. Even though the day I posted, I might. But anyways, I meant to say come back soon and see me. That's what I was trying to say. All right, friends. Bye.